What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back on the video. It's Monday, it's time for the Mock Draft Monday. This week, full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league, doing 12 teams. But for those of you who are asking for 10-team drafts on the live stream, that'll be tomorrow night for you guys. I'm going to do an underdog draft, and then after that, or before it, I don't know what order we're going to do, I'll do a sleeper 10-team draft with anyone who shows up to that. So I'll try to mix in more 10-team drafts during the live streams. But we're doing a full one here, full 12 teams, full PPR, and let's see how this one works out. So I'm going to have up on the right my rankings. I'm going to have up also, talked about many times, the study I did for what is optimal in different formats. What to draft for positions for what is optimal completely depends. If you are in a standard league with, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, half PPR for the same thing, this is a full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league, an emerging format that people are liking a little bit more. So we know, obviously, optimal is going to shift wide receivers way up in the draft. And it is something to where, you see CeeDee Lamb go first overall in this draft. You would see that a lot more often in a format like this because you can start 4 wide receivers in full PPR. They obviously gain a lot of value. So what do we do in this build? Well, first round, as you guys know, I just go with rankings. I don't think too much about what is quote unquote optimal because there's so many different things you can do based off your first round pick. I would go off rankings. My rankings have Christian McCaffrey. Actually, in this format, does have him second. So in all other formats, I have McCaffrey as the 101. I actually do have CeeDee Lamb as the 101 here, so we actually would have preferred McCaffrey go there. But this opens up Hero. Okay, it opens up a few other cool builds if we can get some running backs falling to that like 211, 302 build because, we can still go with some running backs early on. But you're going to want wide receivers in this format. Hero RB is probably what we're going to be aiming for now that we'll have McCaffrey in the first round. So we'll see what's left with us after this. But again, we should be assuming wide receivers are going to shoot up in the draft and that, that first tier of running back is probably not going to be there for us at their next pick. So to round off the first round, Jefferson, Hill, Monter St. Brown, will go for the wide receivers first. Chase, A.J. Brown, and Garrett Wilson. That is exactly basically with all ADPs on all sites. Bijan, Hall, JT, and Gibbs. Also basically following ADP. Kyron goes in the early second round. Saquon goes mid-second round. Achane goes in the late second round. We see Allen go. We see Laporta go. And then the wide receivers you would expect, right? Harrison's gone. Puka's gone. Adams, Olave, Ayuk, all off the board. So nothing crazy has happened thus far. So what can we do with this next pick? Only tight end I'd be even considering at this spot is Laporta. He's off the board. And even Laporta, again, we have a rule in 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So, this one has 3 wide receivers. It's bumping up wide receiver value. Even in a normal format, I wouldn't want Laporta until round 3. If we add value to wide receivers, we're not taking Laporta in round 2. And of course, we're not taking, the other tight ends as well. So we're not doing that. I also basically have a rule this season, unless you're in Superflex, obviously, but in a normal format, besides maybe standard bumps up value a little bit as well. We're not taking quarterback in round 2. I want to be taking quarterback in round 3 and on. So no quarterback, no tight end for us. Take a look at the running backs. You guys know, of course, I like Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry takes a hit in full PPR, even giving him the monster projection I have for him this season. Let's find Derrick Henry. Not a good pick at this spot. He's definitely not a second rounder. If this were half PPR, obviously in standard, but half PPR, I'd be slamming Henry with this pick. We take McCaffrey, we take Henry, and we'd be on our way. We're not going to do that in a format that favors wide receiver and is, not a format that helps the scoring format for him. So Etienne would be the top running back on my board. I have him graded out as a fine pick right now, not terrible, but the wide receivers are more valuable. Plus, we want to go with 2 wide receivers here. We're going to double dip at wide receiver at 211 and 302. So who are the guys? London, Nico. It's a decision I've come to a million times. Probably need to make a video breaking those 2 down. But to be one of them, hopefully we can get both of them. If we look at this is sleeper. I've tried to mix up sleeper and Fantasy Pros. I want to kind of go back and forth between those 2 formats. You guys have been clamoring for a little bit more sleeper in the draft, so we're going to do this one. But in every format, I think we just want to always take a look at what is quote-unquote ADP. What the system and what people, if we were drafting here, are going to look at is the rankings, right? It is much more likely that Drake London, if we pass on him here, it would be drafted for our next pick than it would be Nico Collins, even with him being the next wide receiver. I mean, he's ranked 28th. Drake London is ranked 18th. If we went to my exact rankings, we would see Drake London actually a decent amount ahead of Nico Collins. Nico Collins is going to be a little bit lower volume. He's going to have, of course, that spike. He's going to have a very deep ADOT. He's going to get a lot of balls downfield. That hurts a little bit more in full PPR because those receptions obviously matter a lot. So I think the clear pick here, take Drake London. I know some people are kind of concerned about Drake London. I'm not that concerned, honestly. He gets an upgrade in every sense of the word. Like, he as a player is just going to progress throughout his career. He gets an insane upgrade at quarterback. He gets an incredible upgrade in not only coaching and scheming and play calling, but all of the other factors that matter as well. And just in, like, you know, not only the plays better, they're going to throw the ball at a much higher rate. So even if even if you were to say, okay, maybe I don't believe the actual plays are better to get Drake London open, if they're just throwing it more, if they're just on the field more, scoring more touchdowns, a better offense, that's going to help. When you compound that with the quarterback play, I do believe the play calling will be better, along with the higher pass rate. Everything just gets like a little bit of an increase. And so I understand people who are concerned. I'm just not. I think talent-wise, I thought he was probably a little bit overrated going into the league, but he was still well worth a first-round pick. He's a great talent, easily the best wide receiver. I mean, look at the team, right? Do you think that like Darnell Mooney is going to step up, be their one? Of course not. Do you think that Rondale Moore, for the first time in his career, command targets? Of course not. Like, it's Drake London's team, right? Pitts is a great pick as well. Bijan's a great pick as well, but it's very consolidated on that team. We target consolidated offense. So McCaffrey, London. We see Kelsey and Etienne go off the board. Great for us, right? Because we said we were double dipping at wide receiver. In this format, in half PPR, I'd be going after Nico Collins at this spot. In this format, I don't know that he is the top pick. Big decision here. So my rankings are a little bit different here. So I have Pitts up here. I've got Devonta Smith, Cooper Kupp. A lot of those guys are down there, and it actually kind of puts us into a difficult spot because I kind of don't want to take like Cooper Kupp, who's projected to go 42nd overall. I don't really want to take him at 26, right? Do I think he'll be their next pick? No, but if there's even a small chance that he will be, it wouldn't be sharp for us to take him. We should be going with the guys who will 100% not be there at the next pick. So I'm considering going with Pittman at this spot. He is who I have projected the highest, and I don't want to say it's like not close, but it's a decent chunk down. That is interesting. I'm also curious why Devonta Smith is also down there. Cooper Kupp and Devonta Smith, really strong values in this format. And yeah, I don't think Pittman's not going to be there at the next spot. Also questionable. Don't worry really about, I've had some people ask me about like when they see, the questionable tag on people and they just like don't know, should they hesitate? I mean, not many who are drafting right now. I only really hesitate when there's news in like, late August. And we'll talk about all of that stuff as the season goes along, like who's injured, who's not. Don't worry about any sort of, I think Breece Hall kind of has this as well, like, limited stuff. We're not at camps yet. If camps open up and dudes aren't out there, dudes are missing like a week or two in camp, we start to think about it. Like if you're actually drafting right now, don't really consider injuries unless it's like Nick Chubb with the torn ACL. It's like, TJ Hawkinson, dudes coming off, major injuries, concerns were there. Not anyone who's like a little bit banged up right now. So I think I kind of want to go with Pittman. You could go with Debo, but Debo's also a lower value wide receiver in PPR, much better in standard. And half PPR, DJ Moore, we have some level of concern with just like target competition, a lot of different players there. So that's a little bit of a concern for us. Mike Evans, also another player, big play threat, not as good in full PPR scoring. And then you've got Diggs and Nico, who are going to kind of eat into each other a little bit. If you wanted to go with one of them, I still have Nico higher even in this format. You would go there. So that's basically the choice. And if we wanted to go between Nico and Pittman, it's a 7-point difference. So do I sacrifice a 7-point projection over the full season to take Nico Collins, hoping that Pittman is there at the next pick? Let's be honest, Pittman's not going to be there. let's go with Pittman and let's see what's available at our next spot. But again, we should expect a lot of wide receivers to go off the board. Mini run at running back in the mid-third round. Pacheco, Jacobs, and Henry all come off the board, but then it's a while before Rachaad White is the next running back in round 4. We are seeing a run at quarterback as well. Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar, all off the board. Also after we saw Rachaad White, James Cook, and Mixon also come off the board. Not as many wide receivers as I expected, but still a lot. And unfortunately, the last one that goes is Cooper Kupp. That kind of stinks. We saw Diggs, Evans, Nico, Waddle, Neighbors, Debo, DJ Moore, Metcalf, Devonta Smith, and Cooper Kupp. So that definitely stinks for us. Okay. Quarterback. Stroud, Richardson, totally fine to take at this spot. I just don't think either one of them is like an amazing value. I have it Richardson, but I have him at 504. We're at 411, then going to be at 502. I don't know. I want to get good value with quarterback this season. I'll probably pass on quarterback. At tight end, McBride, Andrews, Pitts, all quality picks, but I have them at basically this value. So if we wanted to go with one, we could go with, I believe I have, Mark Andrews highest even in this format. So we could go with Mark Andrews. We'll start him. Again, neutral value. I have him at 501. We're at 411. That's close enough for the tight end position. Take a gander at running back. At running back, I think Ken Walker can have a great season. I don't know that he's going to have a ton of receptions. That concerns me a little bit in this format. Not a huge fan of Kamara this season. Aaron Jones, I think, is fine. James Conner, I think, is good value, but not in round 4. Montgomery's better in standard and half PPR. Stevenson still started from a previous draft, it looks like. Honestly, none of them stand out as well. So I don't want to go quarterback. I don't want to go running back. We're still starring Mark Andrews. So unless a wide receiver stands out here, but think about this. Kelsey, right? This team has Kelsey. So it's a computer, but the sleeper computers act semi-normal, right? I would be shocked to see it draft Kelsey and Andrews, just like I'd be shocked to see a person do that. So I think we're good to take one more wide receiver and then go with Mark Andrews, and that would be a really strong start to this draft. So who do we like here? I like Zay Flowers, especially in full PPR. I like Tank Dell, so we'll start these guys. Zay Flowers, Tank Dell. Pickens I like, but I just don't love it in this format. Like, he's pretty far behind. Flowers and Dell are the top two. So Flowers at 217.8 for the projection. Tank Dell at 215.5. Pickens is at 206. And, it's not a crazy jump. It's like 11, 12 points. But he just doesn't fit this style because there's not going to be that many games where they're elevating their pass attempts. And if they sign any other wide receivers, that's going to take a hit. I can't really get behind Arthur Smith wide receivers as well with what they've done with Drake London. So it's a pass for me on those guys. T. Higgins wouldn't be a bad pick. Keenan Allen wouldn't be a bad pick if you think he can rack up a lot of receptions there. You think maybe he can be their top wide receiver. I think he's a strong value, but I think this pick is pretty clearly coming down to Zay Flowers or Tank Dell. I don't have a huge take. Again, it's a 2.3 difference in the projection, but I have them in this format as late third round picks, and we are in the late fourth round. So this is phenomenal value. We'd really want to go with one of these two. Again, I'm going to go with Flowers because I have him projected the highest, but if you wanted to go with Tank Dell there, that would be totally fine. Okay, Team 1 is going with a very interesting build in a 3 wide receiver format, going with Stroud and Kelsey plus 2 running back. So they have Etienne and Ken Walker. They've got Kelsey and Stroud, but only CeeDee Lamb. Again, they have to start 3 wide receivers plus that flex spot every week. It's not bad. I mean, as long as they like hammer wide receivers in the coming rounds, but it's not what we would do, right? We want to be attacking wide receivers here. So we have a decision, Tank Dell or Mark Andrews. And I'd be curious to see what decision we have later on with the tight end position. This is probably like, in a lot of these drafts, we go with an inflection point. Like, what was something that kind of split off our strategy and like, did we make the correct choice here? If I pull up what is optimal, we're totally fine taking our 4th wide receiver. So in this format, you're allowed to take your fourth wide receiver in round 4. We're in round 5, so that's totally fine. The last time you'd want to take your fourth wide receiver is round 9. So at wide receiver, we're pretty much set. At the tight end position, you're good. Again, optimal for anywhere for tight end position is literally rounds 1 through 14. So you've got a huge range where it's optimal. You probably don't want to wait past round 14 to take that position. But yeah, it's difficult. So the decision basically is, what do we think we're going to get left with? Because we're going to want that flex option at wide receiver. My guess is we're going to be looking at like this Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Ridley. That's who I'd assume would be our wide receivers at the next pick, assuming there's not like a massive run. Tight ends at the next spot, we would probably just be hoping that Pitts is there, but we already took Drake London, and I'm not confident enough to invest that much in Atlanta. On Underdog, you're definitely doing that. I would prefer leaning away from a London and Pitts build, unless you just really believe in the Falcons. If you do, you got to basically draft Kirk Cousins at that point and just go all in. I think the team is better. Oh, well, okay, but we have Flowers. Okay, so maybe then we do. Maybe we take Tank Dell then. Because I would just prefer in the first 5 rounds not to double dip at wide receiver and tight end the same team. You're just kind of adding a lot of variance where you don't need to do that, right? Because you're adding some variance in the high end that can help you in the weeks where they like completely go off. But there's not actually that many weeks where you're going to have a wide receiver and a tight end in the team both drop nukes and you win because of that. What'll happen more often is like the Ravens will have 3 or 4 weeks where they just don't do that well, or Henry goes off, and now you've got 2 of your first 5 picks busting, and that's going to hurt you more than the like 2 or 3 weeks where they both do good. But it's like that's going to happen naturally anyways, right? So I hesitate in doing that stack, and for that reason, it was good avoiding Nico. Another reason that kind of leaning London at times over Nico is I like Tank Dell so much that it leans away from Tank Dell when I draft Nico Collins, right? Okay. McCaffrey, London, Pittman, Flowers, Dell. We've got our 3 wide receivers plus our flex options you can see on the team over here, all taken care of. Feel great about them. But again, if we pull up what is optimal, this is based off millions of teams over the last couple of years, you could take your 5th wide receiver in round 5 in this format. You're allowed to do that and still be in the optimal range. Now you have from round 5 to round 12. So we've got a huge bucket here where we can take our next wide receiver. And if we took our 5th, our 6th can't come until round 9. So if we were to take another wide receiver here, we better like it because we are locking a little bit into a box and not allowing value after that. If we take a quick glance, we are looking at that general range: Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Ridley. I don't think anyone stands out. Honestly, I think the pick would probably be Jayden Reed. I'll confirm that for everyone listening. The pick would be Godwin. I have moved Godwin up recently in the rankings as well. Should be moving more into that slot role. That's going to elevate. It's going to decrease yards per reception, but it's going to elevate catch rate, elevate targets, hopefully. And so, much better in full PPR. So Godwin would be the pick, but I don't know at this spot if it's what we should do. So after we went, McBride, Kittle, Pitts, and Andrews all gone. We're sitting here with Andrews, Bowers, Njoku, Ferguson. I don't think there's a massive gap between all of those guys. It would be Ingram for me, and it would be in this general spot, but I don't think it would be a must for us to go there. Quarterback, after we went, Richardson and Burrow went off the board. Would like Burrow at this spot. Another one where it's like, Dak, Kyler, Love, drop off after that, but like into that like Caleb, Purdy to a Goff range. I think I would like one of Dak, Kyler, or Love. I don't think I need to. I definitely don't need to with this exact pick. I don't know that I'm going to do it at 7-2 either. So I'm avoiding both of those positions. Interesting. Running back. Swift kind of stands out to me here, right? Because if you kind of work from bottom up, it's like Brooks, maybe too early in this format, coming off the injury, going to start a little bit slower. Chubb, Similar reasons, and he's just not as good in full PPR. Javonte Williams, who just split. Zamir White, not going to have many receptions. Still going to have a ton of touches, but not many receptions. Mostert, he's what, like 32 years old at this point. Not a bad pick for sure, but one that we're going to hesitate with a little bit. Also not going to have a ton of receptions. Pollard, interesting, but a split with Spears, and I kind of like Spears a little bit more for the value. And then so you're basically at Najee and Swift. I don't know. I've read a few things. Scott Baird had that article recently where he talked about like coaching changes. Scott Baird's basically thinking that, you know, it's going to be a committee. Like the staff that they have there is going to run a committee for Chicago. But I don't know. I kind of look at like how much they paid him and how early they did it. In my eyes, with Swift, they went after him so early in free agency and gave him a larger contract than they truly needed to do to get him. It seems like they had internal discussions and were like, this is the guy. This is the guy that we want to have on our team. Not necessarily the feature, but to be a huge part of the offense. And the best way for him to do it is in the receiving game. And so I don't know. I just feel like if we're looking at paths for upside here, I could see a path where Swift really racks up a lot of receptions, because remember also they've had these mobile quarterbacks. They've had terrible quarterback play. They haven't necessarily been able to get the ball to running backs as much in the past. It doesn't mean they're not going to do it now with Caleb Williams. I feel like Swift is the pick for upside. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. We are still in the late 6th round. It is a range where running backs historically are not going to work out at a super high rate. I feel like Swift is the pick for some upside. And again, if it doesn't work out, I have McCaffrey. Like, I'm cool with my running back too, kind of needing a little bit to figure itself out. If we were to go with wide receiver, again, Reed, Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Ridley, I just truly do not believe we need to go there. So I think the pick is Swift. I think that one makes the most sense for us. Godwin and Reed, the top two that we would have had, go off the board. Okay. So I'll do it. We'll look at here first. You guys can see the team. We're still McCaffrey, London, Pittman, Flowers, Dell, Swift. You can also see it over here. So to finish starting lineup, we do still have quarterback and tight end. And it's in consideration for me because, again, I want one of these three. I know some of these teams don't have one. Some of these teams might start looking for a backup quarterback. So it's entirely possible at this turn we do see, none of Dak, Kyler, and Love on the board. Personally, I feel like I would rather risk it. If we happen to not hit, we happen to not hit. It's not the end of the world. I don't feel strongly enough about any of these quarterbacks at this spot to go there. I think all of them are very similar. I don't want to take a quarterback. At running back, we are going to see some of these guys come off the board. Who do I have? I'm kind of curious there. It's a jumble. But where is... Wow, Warren's way down there. So ideally, I would actually get Warren in the next round, and I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. And I don't really want to go with 3 running backs. If we look at what's optimal, that'd be totally fine to do. Yeah, it would be fine to do. So first running back should be anywhere from round 3 through 6 optimal, but again, I kind of throw that out in round 1 because it's like we're not going to sit here and be like, oh, can't take McCaffrey, right? Second running back is 4 through 7. We got it in 6. Third running back is anywhere 6 through 9, so we're totally fine waiting on the third. Fourth shouldn't happen until round 8 through 11, so we'd be okay if we went running back here and then taking our fourth, but I don't really want to be at the beginning of optimal for running back in this format. If I'm going to be pushing anything, I want to be pushing wide receiver value. So I think I'm going to go there. I think I'm going to bank on maybe getting Jalen Warren in the next round. And if that doesn't work out, maybe it's because I got one of Jonathan Brooks or Spears. That's kind of that's the heart of what we're maybe targeting at our next pick. So no quarterback, no running back. I think our hope for the next round is quarterback and running back is what we'll be doing. But again, I don't feel amazing about taking Ingram, but he's not a bad pick here. What do we think about Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Ridley? Honestly, Ladd McConkey, Deontay. Yeah, these are really good picks. I feel like we should grab another wide receiver. It would be Ridley. No, it'd be Marquise Brown just ahead of Ridley. It's Marquise Brown at 203.3 points. Ridley, 201.8. Deontay Johnson, 200.5. I think that makes sense for us because also Hollywood has that upside of like, you know, if he works out and he is the clear number one wide receiver on Kansas City, Warren goes. That's unfortunate. If he does work out, you know, and that happens, we're getting upside that, you know, many other wide receivers can't really be touching. Okay. So this is what happened. Again, you can still see the team over here. We've got Hollywood Brown down there. Is everyone on the right? Yeah, unfortunate running back. So Najee, Pollard, Mostert, Javonte Williams, Warren, Zamir, Nick Chubb. All gone. 3 tight ends go. Ingram, Bowers, Ferguson, and 4 quarterbacks, unfortunately. Kyler's gone, Dak's gone, Love's gone. Didn't really even get close to getting any of them. Also, Caleb Williams off the board. Okay. Not the end of the world. Because honestly, we still have some decent options at tight end. I want to pull up the next page of the rankings and just see exactly where I have Njoku. All right. I have Njoku as basically a good pick at my next spot, but I kind of wanted to see the gap. So Njoku I have projected for 159.8 points. Dallas Goedert, who is next, 138 points. A 21-point gap between Njoku and the next pick. So there's a gap there, right? A pretty significant gap. Again, we don't think Kelsey's going to go there, but this should be on our radar as the Njoku pick. Wide receiver. Like a lot of these guys, I think JSN probably stands out the most. Let me pull up the wide receiver specific rankings. He has the most upside of like, if he can really carve out a role, they're getting 3 wide receivers on the field more. They're elevating pass attempts a little bit. They don't really have to elevate that much. They threw it a lot last season. But he's got like a lot of upside in full PPR. You can rack up a lot of receptions there. Have him at 701. Great value. Top wide receiver on the board. Next best wide receiver would be Coleman. And it would be a 194 to, it's a 10-point gap. Okay. Interesting. Still have, I don't remember starring Singletary. I think that was probably from the last one. I think you probably go Brooks, because I think there's a strong chance team 1 would look at running back here. Brooks has significant upside, especially in the second half. We wouldn't need him to start the season because we wouldn't be starting him anyways, even if he was healthy. We have McCaffrey. We have Swift. We've got flex and wide receiver filled out, so we don't need him to start the season healthy. I think you lock up Brooks. After that, if you want to go Njoku or wide receiver, you go with that. We're definitely waiting at quarterback now that we're in this range. Okay, I think the play is Brooks. I think that makes the most sense. They go Eckler and Moss. So again, great that we went with Brooks. Lock that up. I don't think we need to take that 4th. I don't think we have to go with Tyjae Spears. So maybe we go, it's JSN or it's Njoku. I feel like maybe I do want to go with Njoku. I kind of don't want to miss out on all of the elite tight ends. Because after that, I mean, who do we really feel confident in? We can cross our fingers with Pat Freiermuth. What? We can hope for what? Taysom Hill kind of works out. We can go with our sleepers, right? I like Noah Fant. We can double dip on like Noah Fant, Jonnu Smith. We can take a shot on, I don't even see, Gronk and Jimmy Graham did retire, right? I don't think he got a new contract. I was looking for them. Jelani Woods. Like, we can take shots on those guys. But the actual chance that they turn into someone like David Njoku is pretty slim. And I don't think JSN is enough ahead of the field here. Yeah, we'll take Njoku. I think that makes the most sense. They go with JSN the next pick. I was also looking at Christian Watson. My issue with Christian Watson is like, yes, he has a ton of upside in that, like, if he turns into their true X wide receiver, you know, maybe Wicks isn't as good as we think. I think Wicks is great, but maybe he's not as good as we think. Maybe Christian Watson is everything they thought he would be. It's a fantastic offense. He has significant upside. My issue is in full PPR, he's never going to rack up a lot of receptions. It's going to be more of that like deep play, which is fine, but I'm looking for players with like significant reception upside just because that plays in the format a little bit better. And with all of the targets they have, I mean, they have probably 5 wide receivers that are really, really strong, should be starting on most teams, plus 2 pass catching tight ends and 2 really strong pass catching running backs. Like, there's so many dudes that can catch the ball that for Christian Watson to have a game where he racks up 6-7 receptions, it's like, how often is that really going to happen with all those weapons? So that has me hesitant there. Okay. I think it was smart going with Njoku because, I mean, Goddard's gone, Hawkinson gone, Schultz gone. Like, we're going to see a lot of these tight ends go. Quarterback, unfortunately, keep getting taken. Purdy, Tua, Goff, Daniels. Who is left at quarterback? Because that's something we need to definitely be considering. And again, you can see the team over here. Certainly options, right? I mean, Herbert will be a consistent 15 a lot of weeks. I just don't like this mid-run first offense. Trevor Lawrence, hey, you know, if Brian Thomas Jr., like if he really starts to work out, you know, plus maybe Gabe Davis hits on some deep balls, you know, and he can be elevated just a little bit. Maybe I have hesitations with Trevor Lawrence. I just don't buy it a ton. I think Kirk Cousins is a really strong pick. I think Matthew Stafford is a really strong pick. I like the value of Aaron Rodgers a little bit later on. I wouldn't go with him here. Obviously, I wouldn't take Taysom Hill as our starting quarterback. I wouldn't mind double dipping. Like if we thought that, you know, Bryce Young take a step forward with much better coaching this season and people who can finally get open. If we think that Geno keeps them in the division long enough to keep his job and he can really get going, you know, with, you know, just better play calling on offense, and just kind of getting JSN onto the field more, him taking a step forward in his second season. Like, I like these quarterbacks. I think the upside of like a Kirk Cousins or Matthew Stafford is interesting here. I think I want to wait though and see if the Stroud team doesn't take one of them. So I think in round 11, we take one of Kirk Cousins or Matthew Stafford. I think that's what I want to do. I'll put up the quarterback rankings. I feel like the rankings themselves are not going to point you in that direction. Yeah, the rankings are going to say Herbert, then Lawrence, then Cousins, and then we're going to obviously wait for like Geno after that. I just think like Herbert is a safe pick, but I don't see a scenario where he goes off. Whereas Cousins, a little bit of a more risky pick, because what if all the things that we're talking about don't really work out? What if, you know, he's not 100% recovered? I wouldn't worry about that too much because he's not mobile anyway, so who cares? So there's more risk there. And so in the projection, there's a little bit more downside, but the upside if Cousins hits is like significantly more, I think, than Herbert or Trevor Lawrence. So I think I want to go with Cousins at our next pick, and let's see what would work out with our team a little bit more. So what position? We'll pull up like the full squad over here. We've got McCaffrey, Swift, Brooks. I feel fantastic about that running back core. We've got London, Pittman, Flowers, Dell, and Hollywood Brown. When do we need to take our fifth wide receiver? Fifth wide receiver should come before round 12. So we have 3 rounds to take that. Oh, we already have 5. 6. Oh, we're good. Well, round 13. But we're only really going to draft 13 rounds anyway. So we don't need to worry about that too much. Running back, our 4th should come anywhere from rounds 8 through 11. We're in round 10. So we actually are supposed to grab that 4th running back at one of these 2. And if I want to be taking quarterback in the next round, we should be looking running back. So who do we like? Corum, for sure. Like Corum. I think people are maybe a little bit too in on him, especially in best ball. I understand, obviously, the upside that he has in best ball. I think that Kyron is still an exceptional pick. But it's undeniable in the late 10th round that Corum has more upside than Zeke. He has more upside than Chase Brown. Probably more upside than Jerome Ford because we know that Chubb is going to come back at some point. More upside than Charbonnet. Jalen Wright might theoretically have a better 100 percentile ceiling because the offense he's on, but Corum is a much better bet to get volume early in the season. He's a lock to get volume early in the season. So I think Corum just, you start scrolling through the people, it makes too much sense to take Corum. So we take Corum. We will take Kirk Cousins at this spot to pair with London, kind of betting basically like if my London pick in round 2 was going to work out, we're going to need a good season from Kirk Cousins, right? So I think, pairing that makes a lot of sense. I like the team a lot right now. So we only have 3 picks left. I think we're good to take. Ideally, we probably want to split running back and wide receiver. That probably makes the most sense just because we're pretty sure on those wide receivers, but we start 4 every week. So if we wanted to take 2 wide receivers here, it would be totally fine for us to do that. Shaheed absolutely stands out. Palmer stands out. Brandon Cooks stands out. Pearsall stands out. Wicks stands out. Shaheed definitely gets hurt. I'll pull up the wide receiver rankings and we can rank all those guys. Shaheed gets hurt in full PPR, but he set up really nicely this season. He's a better pick in half PPR formats. Okay, we are in this range. Palmer actually grades out the best, 152.6. Shaheed, 148.4, so a little bit of a gap there, not too much. Wicks, 145. Pearsall down at 144, but Pearsall, it's more the upside if something happens with Ayuk or Debo, or just again, people have asked me who I think could be this year's Puka. My answer is Pearsall. I think that Pearsall, you see all the time people kind of making videos about that, asking that question on Twitter, and then pointing to players where it makes absolutely no sense. When we think about what happened with Puka last season, you had a player who some people liked, but not necessarily wasn't some insane prospect, but turned out to be a great wide receiver. You need a great wide receiver talent. You need good quarterback play, and you need great coaching, because Puka doesn't do that on 25 teams in the league. There's a lot of teams where have way worse coaching, way worse quarterback play. You need a situation where you've got both. You've got a quarterback and a coach that are, I don't want to say that Purdy's some amazing quarterback, but he's great in that system. He is a good quarterback to where if something happens to Ayuk or Debo, which basically happens every single season, one of them gets hurt or they get traded away or just something happens there, you could get an exact situation of what happened with Puka where they are scheming him the football. He's producing and they're like, why would we go away from this? He is, probably not going to be the best wide receiver. No matter who they keep is going to be better than Pearsall. But the point is injuries could happen, and that is easily a situation where we could see insane upside. Projection-wise, though, we're going to go with Shaheed. We're going to go with Palmer because I think Palmer's probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver on the Chargers this season. And if you're getting a number 1 wide receiver this late in the draft, you go after it. So I think we go with Palmer. After that, Shaheed goes. So now we have a bigger decision between Cooks, Pearsall, and Wicks. If we looked at running back, Dowdle wouldn't be a bad pick here. Ty Chandler makes sense. Lloyd makes sense. I don't want all these guys to always be starting all these drafts. So I think, Sleeper, if you're listening, when you go into a new mock draft, you should delete the stars. Anyways, Dowdle, Chandler, Lloyd, all good picks. Algier for some upside. Vidal, I guess, with some upside. Basically just handcuffs at that point. I don't know. I don't think the running back helps us enough. I feel like maybe in 14, maybe instead of a defense, we take a running back, but I think it makes more sense. Assume McCaffrey is good to go this season. Assume your running back 2 can be one of Swift, Brooks, or Corum. I don't think this pick needs to be one of these running backs. So no there. I'm not going to double dip at quarterback. I don't think it makes enough sense for betting on Atlanta with the spot, and I could just stream any of these guys if something happened. Tight end would be fine, but I'm hoping Njoku works out, so I don't really want the tight ends. So I think we go with top wide receiver, and it's top 4 upside. I think it would be Cooks. I think he's probably going to pretty easily be the number 2 wide receiver on one of the best passing offenses in football. A team that's going to have to throw the ball a lot given their running back play. Yeah. Take Brandon Cooks. And then again, instead of a defense, we would just take a shot on whoever we think is the highest upside at running back with our next spot. So we'll wait for that pick to happen. We'll show you guys the full draft board after this. I think this draft worked out really nicely. Quite obviously let me know in the comment section, but I think this worked out really, really well. And yeah, we would just handcuff. I think we would just handcuff Elijah Mitchell. If we didn't have McCaffrey, we could look for, I would say, like Braylon Allen, Pierce if you think he gets traded, Tank Bigsby. Not a whole lot other than that, but I think it would just make sense. Do the handcuff and move on. Okay. Oh, wait, there's another pick. Well, how about that? Well, I didn't know that. I probably wouldn't have taken him with that pick. Okay. We have a whole nother pick here. What do we? Oh, well, defense, but again, I wouldn't probably take defense this late. You like this early in the season, you just would forego your defense pick and you would just take another position player. Who could really, really hit here? So with this pick, and a lot of people do this, this pick probably like, okay, if I knew I was keeping this player, I'd probably go Douglas, right? Because I think Douglas is undervalued. He's going to have a great season, record a lot of receptions. I have to cut this player though. Like when week 1 happens, I'm going to have to cut someone and I'm not going to want to cut Douglas. So I'd probably end up cutting Mitchell and I wouldn't feel great about that. So you want someone that you're cool cutting, which actually does push you back to running back. And you would basically be like, okay, why don't we just take Braylon Allen? If Breece Hall happened to suffer an injury and we get Braylon Allen shooting up to like round 3 or round 4, I've just gotten significant upside. And if it doesn't happen, I cut him. And, I'm not too concerned with that. So those are the picks you should make instead of your defense pick. Because again, you're going to have to cut them. Okay. I think this team is really strong. Is there going to be a pop-up here? No. Good. I think the team is good. I like the team a lot. Running backs. McCaffrey, Swift, Brooks, Corum, Mitchell, Braylon Allen. A lot of upside there. 3 wide receiver format in full PPR. So we wanted heavy wide receiver early. We've got Drake London, Michael Pittman Jr., Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Hollywood Brown, Palmer, and Cooks. I think that's a great mixture of security. We know some of these guys are going to hit with some upside. We don't really know with Hollywood. We don't know exactly how Tank Dell is going to work out in that second season on this offense, but they're upside plays and we don't need them to work out. We've got other players and if we needed to slide in Palmer, Brandon Cooks in that flex spot, I'm totally comfortable doing that. And we've got David Njoku and Kirk Cousins at tight end and quarterback. So let me know your thoughts of the team in the comment section down below. We've got a full slate of videos now that I'm back in the United States. We're back to making videos. But yeah, full slate of videos coming this week. Live stream tomorrow night, 6:30 Eastern. Be there for that. Again, we're going to do an underdog draft, and then I'll go in, do a 10-team sleeper draft. So for those of you who want to see a sleeper draft, for those of you who want to draft with me on stream, we can do that as well. That, my friends, is the end of this one. Like the video if you watched this far. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Thanks for watching.